and cultural or traditional leaders as seen in other countries. The President reminded cultural institutions and traditional leaders to avoid getting involved in partisan politics, employed cultural institutions and churches, encourage Ugandans to work if they are busy with. There are other outstanding demands from the Buganda Kingdom and other cultural institutions, including the Southern and Buganda Kingdom, and those that have not received any, demanding that action must be taken. While the President is challenging cultural institutions to engage in development, it is not clear how they can steer clear of politics while at the same time mobilizing the masses towards national unity and development. But tonight we look at the relationship between the central government and cultural institutions. And the other two sides can avoid confrontation and politics and stick to the development agenda as well as ensuring social harmony at the same time. As this tonight, Honorable Rose Namanja, Minister in charge of Information and National Guidance, also Nakaseke District Women. He comes from the Buganda. Was such a very much lovely. And Honorable Stephen Muktale Kirawa, Munisa Council from the Buganda Kutara. He's also on his way. Now, as we have had, the President hands over this confidential document. As he handed them over as State House, the Nigerian said that he had told it to some people who believe that this issue must not be treated the way he was treated, giving back some of these lands, which included administrative centers such as Kombola and some of the headquarters, would trigger their kingdom leaders to engage in politics. In the past, kingdoms such as Uganda had prisons, had police systems, had administrative headquarters. They engaged in campaigns when they did. That's how was the case in the Bagera Kingdom, the Toro Kingdom, the Winyoro Kingdom, which was stretching at some to Karagwe in southern Tanzania. Just been joined by our guest, Honorable Stephen Kirawa, to discuss this matter with us. As you mentioned earlier, he belongs to the Winyoro Kingdom and his county, the legislative seat in the police county. In that. You're most welcome, Honorable Kirawa.
Thank you so much, Edman, for giving me everyone attention. First of all, I'm here as an advocate of nation building. Secondly, of course, I come from NRM and from Bunyoro. So my angle of debate on this topic, I will come entirely the approach of the President, the signals given, giving more space, giving more latitude to the cultural institution. For me, it would be my interest in debate. The role of a modern cultural institution in a modern state. Uganda even put it better, and I'm aware that Uganda doesn't only have one kingdom. We are talking of many cultural institutions. So I am more interested in hearing across the board. What are we talking of in terms of the central government versus cultural institution relation? In terms of funding, in terms of the budget approach. Because what we've seen so far is the magnanimity and the goodwill of the President, giving them leverage as listed. And for me, this is a reminder that some constitutional order, some serious constitutional amendments are required in as far as that relation is concerned, but also in as far as the land matter is concerned. I came from Parliament, but I had wanted to look at the land policy. I just got a copy last week. I've not read it. I'm interested in seeing this return of the land to all cultural institutions, including the one of Bunyoro. Is the land policy addressing this issue so that what is in the policy will it be in the constitution and in the law? So I don't want tomorrow to go in Kibale to talk about lost county. We don't want to rejuvenate the divide and rule of the colonialists. 52 years after independence, the post-independence state, Ugandan state, the prayer government and the one the NRM state should have resolved these matters then. But the other very important question is that this country at point in time under President Museveni is having Vision 2040. We have finished NDP 1, we are going for NDP 2. And we are struggling with challenges of infrastructure development with waves of electricity from here to Entebbe. Entebbe Express Highway having problems. The pipeline is having problems from Eldoret to Kampala. We are now talking of the final land in Hoima, and a lot of other big projects getting impediment because of a mistake we made in the 95 Constitution, not giving a radical title to the state.
We'll talk about that in the
yes.
So basically, you are an NRM before you are a Muslim.
I am an advocate of nation building, first of all.
NRM number 2. I
hail from Bunyoro. I happen to be in the NRM party. So for me, the ranking,
NRM is number 2.
For me, the ranking is very clear.
You have to get the other correct. Now, NRM comes number 2. You could do something else. Let's talk about this matter right now. Honorable Biawa. When will kingdoms eventually go to take political power? You know, in the past they have this political power. Some of them are absolute monarchs with power over their country.
The debate of the hegemony, of the power relations, if I can call it, between the central government or the politicians and the cultural institutions, right from the monarchs of those days, including also the debate between the religious leaders and the state, is a very old debate. It's a very old debate, and we're starting it here. For me, one of the 2 constitutional amendments I'm looking forward to is actually this area. Why would I want to say so? The cultural institutions have an unbelievable goodwill following, which doesn't require radio announcement, which doesn't require spending money, but that if the cultural leader of Bunyoro, of Toro, of Acholi, of Buganda said, I want tree planting tomorrow, people would plant trees. They would even look, they would ask for money for the planting material. But if a state says so, they will say, give us the money. Then the procurement. Then what? If we have challenges, you look at the Madame Nankabiro, I'm one of the supporter initial of the project of fiscal subversion, but it has failed. It has become corruption. But I am sure if the cultural institutions were told to protect the breeding areas, to do the wetland protection, you know what Burundi was used to be. So for me, I am so much in support of more space, more latitude, more involvement of the cultural institution, and I want to add the legal institution in the. I don't think the NADs, for example, would have done better with the legal system than with the central government. I still contend that UPE and USC would have done better under the Christian Foundation with the faith-based foundation body than giving it LOCs, because most of the corruption shoulder works you'll find it more related with LOCs. Right. So there is a lot of a debate just beyond the returning of titles and just beyond the president releasing some money last time to some billions to Uganda. Of course, the concern then is that if you give, when the king of Toro was speaking, he said, if you give the Singoma, you must give cattle. So he was also waiting for his check after Uganda had received. So I am not so comfortable with the biggest lobbyist getting a deal with government, and then the others who have not mobilized themselves to the lobbyists not getting. It should be across the board. It should be a national concern. I would want big money in the Ministry of Gender. I would want to see a Minister of Gender more powerful, dealing with issues of cultural institutions, issues of the legal system, and we appropriate as Parliament money going to this ministry as their budget, because at times also these are the areas which float the State House budget. These areas must be where they fall. Right. They must be institutionalized. There must be structures. There must be guidelines. Now, the biggest fear in the whole debate when you read about the history of this, how can you give state money? For example, one of the reasons why it's discouraged for the cultural institutions from collecting taxes is that they are not accountable. But guidelines can be put in place for them to be accountable. For how do they receive the money, how do they account for it, and I think this is possible. So for me, I don't want to believe that it's cast in concrete, that the cultural institution should only wait for the central government, they should be dispensing some development programs. The food security. Our cultures used to provide for everybody having a food security garden at home. Sanitation has failed under ministries. Sanitation and hygiene was best done under cultural institutions. You know, I'm a grandson of a chief of Sato Wing, where everybody had a pig latrine, had a granary, had katandaro, a rack at home. There was the pathways were okay. These tenders and contractors were not there then. So really you can see we have lost a lot in the name of trying to gag and reduce the delivery of the cultural institution and the religious institution. And we have been problem. And that's why even I say recently we were discussing the homosexuality. By the central government usurping the powers of the foundation bodies, Catholic, Anglican, Muslim and others from education. Possibly that's why homosexuality and corruption is increasing, because we are not giving an all-round education. We are giving learning, you know, and we forget the imparting of morals, you know. Those schools where we went to church in the morning and in the evening, you know. So moral issues were relegated at the expense of learning, and so it's quite a very big debate. And I wouldn't want us to reduce this just to Uganda and the President Museveni and the current Kabaka or the current Katikiro. We are discussing the role of the modern cultural institution in a modern state vis-a-vis service delivery, fighting poverty, hygiene, environmental protection, with challenges of climate change. Because if our cultural leaders were given just seedling, the whole country can be green. But a lot of money has gone. How many seminars, how many workshops, how much money has gone in the name of environmental protection for the last 20 years? Will you see the forest? It is the private timber growers recently who have done the planting. But the money has gone. You don't see, you will see some houses coming up. So we really need to look at what they call delivery mechanism. How can the state, how can the central government today work with these strong networks of religious institutions, of cultural institutions, to actually dispense, to actually use cheaper means with efficiency again of how best they can actually do some of this work. Of course, their challenges come with it. They are political phobia. They are those who fear a very strong cultural institution. They are those who fear a very strong religious institution. If you give all schools to the Catholics, DP will sprout. That's an old debate. This country is under integration. We have intermarried. I am an Anglican. I married a Catholic, diehard, but this is now more of Pentecostal. We have moved. So let's really not be hostages of our history. We need to allow our children to move. My son, Emunyoro Mugungu, has no interest in fighting Uganda because he's a Muslim, you know, of Mamba. So this country has moved. We need to go beyond those old rigidities and make sure that we move on. But let us emphasize what areas can this cultural institution help this country do better, and where should the resources be, so that the debate now, we are lucky the President Museveni has initiated this, but we want to see this debate institutional. We want to see it in constitutional amendment. There must be following laws. Do I find that in this land policy, for example, which I'm having? Am I going to see this replicated in the NDP? You know, if we have land challenges, because I want to insist, I am not comfortable with the radical title not being in the state. Because it means tomorrow you have to go back to the cultural institution to beseech. We should be giving leases for every development.
That's a debate for another day. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about the missing link. How would we draw the line? What is the missing link before the cultural institution can do this kind of thing? And where do you draw the line?
You see, cultural institutions earlier had, as I've said, one of the fear was that the Mwanawani approach, that it was assumed that it was not out of competitive meritocracy, it was not, but we've seen the outgoing Katikiro was an engineer, and an engineer has championed the local construction work in the kingdom.
The cultural institution also has modernity. We have qualified people. So it's no longer the old Mwanawani that the kingdom is going to have people who know nothing.
So we need to work out to grow that fear. Of course, the other one was transparency. We have accounting people, you know. We have people who are now knowledgeable, who are ICT. So on the question of accountability, I'm sure the kingdoms themselves, the cultural institutions themselves, have increasingly developed systems and structures for governance. I remember, for example, in Uganda, the previous I think Minister of Health, now President's advisor, Robert Semunya, and one of my in-laws who worked with him in health, were handling a lot of health programs in Uganda. And I think it is possible. It's possible to do such arrangement. Of course, one of the mistakes earlier, again about Mwanawani, the earlier land offers were not so much on merit. But I want to commend the Uganda Kingdom, for example. The Makulu was who got involved in this process of allowing the reason. The moment Uganda Land Board decided that whoever is on Uganda land as a supporter, even if you didn't apply, you can regularize your relation. That was a very positive movement. That now you can get a list, or Kwegula, you can get a list on that land. I saw that was a more developmental approach. But our concern is that, for example, why I insist that land must go back to the state, not just because for compulsory land acquisition for government infrastructure, which again was very bad, prior, adequate and prompt. Basically, you are saying you have not given compulsory.
We never have that money anyway. All projects, if you look at the bill in energy, in railway, in road sector, it's immense. But the other most important reason for giving the radical title to the state, if you look at China, for example, every 10 years there is a review on land. The state decides how much land goes for production, how much land goes for real estate. You don't leave it to individuals. Now, for us, we have encumbered land development, and we are talking of Vision 2040. These landlords who speculate square miles in Ulisa, in Mubende, in Chankwanzi, the same group, right. They are not producers. They are
not looking at this land as a development device. They are speculating for money gains. So we need to unblock this land for production. And that's why I agree to a greater extent with the ministry of 1975.
All land belongs to the state.
Land belongs to the state, and land was for production. And if you didn't use it for 5 years, you lose it. So we need to
can that be abused?
We need to legislate.
Can that be abused?
Yes, we need to legislate some of those radical reforms and put it in the new constitution, in the new land policy. Not necessarily coming. Let me tell you, China is succeeding to be the best capitalist. It's a mix. Because China has managed to use the whole population explosion to increasingly become food sufficient because of how they regulate land. Because if the state doesn't regulate land will go, we've seen in our case, by the way, in Uganda, if you look at what informs in my position also, is our demography. We have a 3.4% population growth, which would require in terms of GDP growth a minimum of 13% to grow, which we don't have. So clearly you are seeing that in the next dozen years we are eating 70 million people. But you don't see that level of organized commercial agriculture production, which is going to employ these people, which is going to give us food self-sufficiency. Yes, so that alone informs you that we have a crisis coming, looming, and to address it, we must consolidate land through serious urbanization, serious organized urbanization, as per the act we took it for the whole Uganda as a planning area 2010, but be able to consolidate and release land for gainful agriculture production and commercial.
Let's take a break. This is Petra Moduka.
That you wanted more. And at British Airways, we're always keen to oblige, which is why we now fly direct from Entebbe to London 4 times every week. It's also why we've changed our departure times, giving you better access to over 200 North Atlantic destinations via our award-winning London Heathrow Terminal 5. To find out how British Airways gives you...
No, I mean, that's what we are saying. That's the exact thing we are saying. For instance, when you talk about utilization of land, these kingdoms have huge chunks of land. The land is there. It's not utilized. You go to Kibale, they have absentee landlords. Some of them were Batakas here in Uganda and things like that. But that aside, there is that thing you were talking about, the issue of budgeting for kingdoms. I mean, you look at the situation right now. You've been discussing in the House about the quality of health services, and the government seems to be weak in terms of monitoring, and yet these kingdoms enjoy respect. Sure, I think if some of these resources were channeled in those directions, but how do we get to that table amid all this suspicion? Even when Museveni was speaking in Mengo, in his State House, you could still see he was suspicious. He reached a point of saying, I've been hearing only good news from Mengo ever since we signed the Memorandum of Understanding, and I commend you.
I remember the first time I paid.
And the people are saying he's perfectly timing the return of this. The Memorandum of Understanding was systematic.
When I was being punished, but I didn't think of it that way. One thing stuck with me though. I remember.
So what he's doing in Uganda is not being replicated elsewhere. Isn't that dangerous? That's the point of the discussion. What you are doing in Uganda should be done in Bunyoro if you are really thinking about cultural institutions as a channel of development, like he's saying. It's also be done in Busoga. Busoga is crippling. There is too much poverty there. If the cultural institution was there, maybe the issue of jiggers would have been dealt away, like in Nabagereka has a program of running around on sanitation and things like that.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back to Spectrum. Tonight, what should the role of cultural institutions in the management of the Kenyan state be? Our guest, Honorable Stephen Kujalebila, police accountant from the Bunyoro Kingdom. We will be asking questions there. Honorable Bila, the roles that you're describing, these people should be allowed to tap into politics.
You see, again, this politics thing, I think first of all it would be unnatural to say that cultural institutions should not be political. They must be political. Religious leaders must be political. NGOs must be political. What they must avoid is being partisan. The moment they are not political, they are useless. Because we are talking about management of society, that is politics. So there is nothing wrong with a religious leader, with a cultural institution, with an NGO being political. What they should avoid is being partisan.
How do you do that?
Being partisan would mean only siding with me who is in NRM today and not working with the opposition. For me, that's what is ugly, and that's what we should be used for. But to discuss the allocation of scarce resources in this country by these people is adequately proper. For them to discuss the management of society is actually proper, is actually constitutional, and I don't think anybody should really delve into that debate, which would be a very negative reactionary debate. So we have in the constitution regional players provided for. So I would expect the debate there to be taken from just one group, which is my in-laws in Uganda, but to discuss the debate of regional affairs. I come from the mother kingdom of Bunyoro because all these kingdoms came from there anyway. I would want to hear that the Soga region is also in this program. I would want to hear
about why is President Museveni giving this only these things to Uganda? Why now and why not?
No,
is Bunyoro going to get there?
You see, for me, I'm saying it's good. A responsive president, it's okay. He may be having press side, it will be a negotiation, the VFA debate has been on for long. But it should only be an eye-opener that when you have an articulate particular of Uganda, who I think he is not negotiating for only Uganda. It should be a reminder that in this country, there are issues of cultural institutions across the board, including Acholi.
He was in Ankole together.
Including Acholi.
He will advocate for the return of the Ankole.
I will have a debate for Ankole. I have a very big debate for Ankole as a cultural institution. I know they need it. At times also, it is the marginalized who feel, who make a push, a lobby, an advocacy. Possibly they may be in the comfort zone for now. But the point I'm making, in the constitution, we did provide for regional tires. The regional tires by now should be functioning. And possibly some of these lands would not be managed by the cultural institution, would be possibly managed under the radical title being going to the state. Possibly the regional land boards will be handling these matters. So these are matters we are not delving into, and by postponing them, we are creating bigger problems for the next generation. So we must agree now, if we are going to urbanize animals, if we are going to get land and invest in come to Uganda, and doesn't have to go to a minister, doesn't have to go to State House and find land, we must have serious regional land boards, planning, semblance of planning authorities, which can say somewhere between Kenjojo and Kibale, we have this bankable project where you can grow tea. That you can go to Nuoya, you invest heavily and say, even customary land have land titles. That if you go to Nuoya and you want to grow sugar cane, you don't have to take 9 years of negotiation. That the land is there, the land is of this alkalinity or whatever acidity, and the rain, the humidity is this, the rain is this much. That's the kind of information we need in this country.
Will Bunyoro get some money from the oil?
Yes, of course there are big problems. You know, the British were taking the British to court for the genocide they caused in Bunyoro, and unfortunately Chogam was coming, so we were requested to go slow on that. But I don't want to speak so much here just for Bunyoro, and they are going to give us money. Unfortunately, when the money comes as budget support to Uganda, DFID, it does nothing goes to Bunyoro. The money disappears in the national budget.
When it comes to status, how can it disappear?
Yeah, we have a big problem. So I don't think the Bunyoro have to become agitators for them to be listened to. Everybody knows the injustice was done in Bunyoro. And you see, that's why right now, like people are complaining, everybody is looking down there for oil money. And when the first road we are getting is to pick the oil from Kashetoni. Not Muzekajura's road to Kitoba and Gorovia and Mutiaba and Mulisa, but the target is so. It's also wrong. It's also wrong for us to be sensitive. If these communities are quiet, we take them for granted. They get nothing because they are not agitators. I think that's unfortunate. So for me, I will not only speak for Bunyoro. I am saying there are other areas like Mugungu who are missing out in the national budget, who are missing out on national privileges, who are missing out on national recruitments, who are missing out on so many things. Now, those who would not get access to the president, those who would not get access to the power of the government, how will they get their equity? How will they get? That's the debate I would want to raise. That's the debate I would want to raise. That those who are out there, and my people police want to do the revenue authority, how they do the revenue authority? How they join KCC? How they join? How did they get these good jobs? Because they are out there. Yes. So and you find that transformation of these areas also come with some center facilitation. So for us who are on the periphery of the periphery, we remain being neglected. And the next thing you hear somebody, they should not be there. These are places, the oil found areas are places which had no roads, which had no schools, which had no health facilities. People are dying on water because of accidents, you know, but people are dying now to get oil from there. This one will get in contracts, not will get in business. So we should really look at some of these things very seriously. It's a big debate for national integration. And if we approach it as citizens, not as a Bunyoro, not as a Muganda, it's a help this country, because the divide and rule was a colonial policy.
Let's talk about this region.
52 years after independence, we cannot be approaching things the same way. So let's use the regional tire. Let's empower cultural students across the board. The other day, I was in a meeting and I was asked by some sector of the British city, oh, it's your bishops of Catholics and Anglican getting the land prison. For us, we are not getting. So you can imagine that kind of thing.
Let's talk about this regional tier system that you champion. What will the cultural leaders?
The regional tier already provides for the cultural leaders as a titular head. It's granted. And it also says that it comes from the spirit that the regions which will have agreed to work together will have deemed to have. So for me, even for those hardliner federalists, whom I am for devolution, I am for federalism, but not federal the way people baptize it here. So even for those extremist federals, I think for me the first foundation for them would be a military. So I don't understand why between us areas from these regions have failed to hammer a deal between Buganda, Bunyoro, Toro, Nkole region, Busoga, Acholi, Teso region, Bugisu. Why we have laid the region? Because this balkanization, whereas it has been very good, the earlier approach of trying to create more districts so that we can have service delivery. Indeed, I am one of the beneficiaries in this, which was a sub-district from a ministry. But we reached the point of realizing that service delivery does not mean more districts. And today I got a copy from World Bank. I'm trying to look through that study. What we need, I have said it before, a town council, urbanization, a cooperative society, a nuclear project like Kalangala project, a Kinyara Sugar Works, is more useful than a district. So what we need is you bring services, because urbanization brings services where the people, it becomes cheaper. So the land debate, the urbanization issue, the creation of town councils, fiscal planning, it's a multi-sector, comprehensive, integrated area. We need to look at as one way of transforming this country, given the population explosion which is looming, given our products of UP and USE who need skilling and we need to get entrepreneurship and training. So we need to look at it in totality, not just end on land and Uganda and I don't know what.
So would you say that previous tensions between the central government and the state have eventually?
Of course, as a citizen who is a realist, you wouldn't wish off. You know our history. One of the turbulence, the first turbulence was the disagreement between UPC and the Uganda government. So any serious leader would navigate carefully and make sure that we don't need rift. We don't need any rift between any cultural institution, whether it's Uganda or Teso or Bunyoro or whatever. We don't need any rift between central government and but we also don't want to postpone problems. What I'm opposing is postponing problems. You negotiate today, you give a good deal, 10 years, because of what initially was a darling. Initially, finally didn't work. So we don't want to postpone problems. What we are doing in Uganda, as far as land matter is concerned, is a massage. What we have been doing in all these land amendments we have been doing is a panadol. What we need in Uganda is a surgery, an overhaul, an operation. Exactly. Some piece of meat has to be cut, some bones may suffer, some pain may be done, but to have something good, to have a land reform that's going to allow development to take place in this country. Sort of that, you will have projects without counterpart funding for land acquisition. You will have a good project. Gaddafi would have given us a pipeline before he died, come oil. It's very difficult from Jinja to access here. We want to go into Express Highway. If we don't solve this land question, where will it back? We are now talking of pipelines coming back from the oil area to Kampala and traverse the neighbors. And in Ethiopia, one of the reasons why their costs for land, for roads is cheaper, they don't buy maram. They don't acquire land. So when they were doing all the infrastructure, the rates they now did, there was nobody in Uganda on top of the road equipment and the tunnel you're going to put for tarmac. You have to add on land acquisition, you have to add on maram acquisition. Now, the maram is for the state. The land belongs to the state. So you can see the encumbrance we are causing UNRWA and Engineer Yandala and Biawagan in doing their work. And then when we are comparing the parliament, they say, but in Ethiopia, the road is this. But the road in Ethiopia is already, the land is for government. And it doesn't buy Marab. The contractor in Uganda is buying Marab. Even I had a problem recently. For the first time, we are getting a power line in Ulisa. But people want to be compensated. Because that's what the government and the is telling them. So, in my tours, I am now answering why we are having a power line without compensation. You can imagine. The road project we have been waiting for, it's at that stage of also trying to value it. Everybody is more interested in compensation than the road. So, that alone is wrong. It's even a wrong mentality. We are giving our citizens, as we talk about patriotism, we actually disabling them in terms of the segregation of patriotism. Okay. Let's have a compensation.
This is Spectrum, Radio 1, our number 0414 348 111 0312 260 390 0312 261 390. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name? Yes, Uncle.
I would like to interpret with the comment with the fact that the Taraka, some of the Taraka were still where they were not. I would like to comment on that to the government and people before.
Your question is not very, the line is not very clear. Can you say that again?
I would like to interpret comment on the fact that the Taraka, some of the Taraka were still where they were not. But that's not another country. I would like to comment on that too. The thousand of people for also the other person on the Palaka expect to go to that point.
What is that, guys? Spectrum, hello? Good evening, your name?
I'm going to give instead of calling from Kenya. I want to put it out. However, I want to put it in when he says that the debt of the school should given back to the judges and what he is giving up on. Those who are being practiced by the government and unity, and they are doing that. The judges, they want to a lot of discrimination. But that's not an issue. Everybody can so much do that. The government.
Spectrum, hello? Numbers 0414 348 111 031 260 030 031 261 390. You call in, please tell us your name. Also tell us where you call in. Spectrum, hello? Can you switch off your radio? Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, your name?
This is Dr. Tanga from Canada.
Yes, Dr. Tanga.
I think I just want to thank the wonderful for the historical understanding of the last question and the political quagmire in which we are. He has been very proud. He has been objective. He is not biased. And then the relevance of the culture is well done. I think should be put at a higher level. The relevance thing is that exactly about particular things that are said. I think we need a marriage of convenience if it is for the moment. Even if we marry and we make Uganda benefit no cultural institutions, we must manage. Then the radical land reform, which is talking about, yes, once the government values people as voters, they will not appreciate that need a radical land reform here. I was talking with a friend from Akira and I was questioning how will government navigate the highway from India in private over the land from India to Kampala. That's because we do not want the government. We yet to set the hardest people to do, which was also wrong. And then they knew that later on they need to hide area and other came up with support. But I think we need to take a radical reform in respecting all votes if it is for public. And this debate is carried to Parliament. Without Parliament going to a congress which will see because they want to vote. You cannot deport Kampala, for example, if you don't negotiate with the king land holders to have the land move away from us. This is where Kabera comes from, the credit system is falling. We must try to bring our development further away from the country.
Chamala? Okay, I guess let's hear from. Let's get your response to this.
Yeah, you know, in the last parliament, one of my disappointments was.
Okay, let's take a final. Chamala. Hello. Let's hear.
Yeah, when we were making the Kampala City law, I was very disappointed that we even drew a boundary of Kampala minus Mukono, minus Wakiso, minus Mpigi, and even part of Bombo. Because for me, I saw that as a very big joke, and I'm not surprised that our hardworking state director, Jennifer Msi, is getting problems. Because I saw it then, that what we're trying to do, respecting the, so we really need to make some decisions, even if they will hurt us in terms of votes. We need to provide leadership. It is much easier to explain something right than being a ransom for something populist. So it's a tall order that we have to do that. You saw how the bus system had a problem to have a contract with Kampala without Mukono and Wakiso, and your destination is outside Kampala. So it's a very big challenge, and how I wish that even in the debate today, the role of the culture, the modern cultural institution, I am sure that OHT Maiga is willing even to help central government in resolving the Kampala confusion, because all that is in Uganda. And by the way, when we speak about Buganda and Bunyoro and Toro, we are not talking about a tribe, because the mother kingdom Bunyoro, as it was a nation state. It was a colonial confusion. We went up to DRC. I was telling my phone, the national ID project in Bunyoro the last 4 days. We were up to Bunya. The Kivu area was part of Uganda. So it's wrong to start bringing in the tribe aspect. The cultural institutions look after regions, and these regions have since become cosmopolitan. When you talk about Uganda, we have now Somalis here, we have Sudanese, our brothers, they came here. Because Uganda is also because the NRM government and the security has managed to protect the area. For us, we've had Kyangwari, those Banyarwanda who came in the 40s and 50s have since been assimilated, they have become part of us. The area Sudanese who came are with us. We have Nubians like the ones in Bombo, we have Kinubis both in Masina and Wema. So we're not talking about cultural institutions, we're not talking about Buganda, Bunyoro. We are not talking about the tribe. We are talking about the communities. But there is a cultural institution within which there are cultural norms, even to some extent on land, where they accommodate people, where they receive people, where they coexist. Even the problem I had in the release at that time was those who wanted to be hosted but abusing the hospitality of the host community, wanting to deprive, to alienate, and disenfranchise the host communities in the first place. So which puts in place settlement policies, settlement plans, housing plans, so that you don't bring conflict between host communities and the influx. Because we are developing, we are moving on. So for me, I would want to agree with everybody who agrees that it is possible in a modern state to be able to see cultural institutions play a much more role. And I want to thank Dr. Tanga for the submission. The only thing I want to tell him, there is no political quagmire. The quagmire is the only thing I disagree with him. Now, only a brother from Mujinda who disagrees on the schools, more role by religious institutions. I don't know whether he knows the history that education in Uganda was introduced by the state. Education in Uganda was introduced by missionaries, and some of our parents are a product of that. And even today, even with UP and UCSE, the best performing schools apart from private schools is the Kisuvis, is the Budos, is the Kibulis, is the Gayazas,
and Namiriangos.
All these are Namiriangos. They belong to the faith-based organizations. So what proven performance do you want? What more research do you want to do? That even with the disturbance of government not giving them the full leverage,
they are still excelling. So that can tell you that we need to you see what you do. You don't have to reinvent a wheel. You have to see proven performance and you actually give it more latitude. And then you see what's failing and do a correction. So I would encourage government not to do so much. Government doesn't have to own schools and even claim Catholic Church give me land. That's a wrong debate. What you need to work with them is ask them, how many are you enrolling? So the government gives bursaries as per enrollment. If a Muslim school, Kibule, has more children, give them more bursary. If they have less, give them less. That should be the best way to do. And actually that will solve a lot of problem because it will be encouraging people to. And these schools no longer, those who are those old fears, you know, we had families where my uncle was a Catholic and therefore a DP, and my father was an Anglican and therefore, that's long gone. These schools are now mixed. You will even find a head boy, a Muslim in Udo. You know, my children have gone there. So we really need to outgrow this old thinking. We also need, as government, to do an audit of what's the core function of government. Why should the districts have just had NAD's offices are failed? We are going back to agriculture. So also districts need to realize is have their education inspectors function? My answer is no. But did the Catholic Church, the Muslim inspectors, the Anglican inspectors, were their system functional? The answer is yes. So you don't need another research. You know, in Uganda we have consultancies. Somebody wants some $1 million in consultants to prove that. You don't need the research. This is a foregone conclusion. We already know that the religious institutions have a system not only of reading and learning, but of imparting moral values, and you need an all-round citizen modeled, you know, and also make sure that because they inspect their schools. Why, for example, we in private schools pay less money and get better results is because we have supervision. What fails government schools is there is no supervision. So I want to as I welcome the president's gesture to the Uganda government, I pray that it will be across the board, the whole country. I pray that it takes the constitutional angle. I pray that it goes into the budget framework. I pray that the necessary reforms, constitutional reforms, follow, and so that we know it's not the magnanimity of a good man called President Museveni, but it's a national agenda, and we shall move on as a country.
We want to thank you, Honorable Stephen. Thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome with our next
Legitimate whiskey is different.
You have a copy of the NS. He's sending me a copy.
I have not felt so original with the lightness I get each morning after I enjoy legitimate whiskey.
Because when I was having